But even today, the people of Hakuru sing this story in their chants and tell it over the evening fires. It is the story of Mafatu, the boy who was afraid. Continuing my reviews through the Newbery Award winners, today we have Call It Courage by Armstrong Sperry, which won the award in 1941. Armstrong Sperry was born in 1897 in New Haven, Connecticut. He trained as an artist, but was always enamored with the stories that his seafaring grandfather used to tell him. So he resigned from his well-paying job at an advertisement firm and went to sea. He traveled for about a year before settling on Bora Bora, and he stayed there for about a year as well. He lived with the people, learned the language, and learned more about their culture and customs. This was a time of great transition in Bora Bora. He watched the way that things changed as trade routes changed and the way that the culture and the people dealt with those things. After he moved back to the United States, he married, started a family, and began to write stories based on his experiences from that year at sea and that year on Bora Bora. One of those books was Call It Courage. This is the story of a young Polynesian boy named Mafatu. He is the son of a chief, but he is terrified of water after he and his mother were caught in a storm, and his mother loses her life saving him. After that, he says he can feel Moana, the sea god, calling for him and trying to reclaim him since he survived that initial wreck. Even though he has found a place in society, he feels a great deal of shame over this fear of water for a island people whose livelihood comes from the sea. And so he finally decides to set out an adventure to prove himself. He sets out on a boat accompanied by his faithful dog Yuri and an albatross named Kiwi. The rest of the book is a tale of his adventures, his shipwreck, surviving on a almost deserted island, and then an escape from a tribe of cannibals making his way back home. This book is essentially the telling of a myth or a legend, but in the little research that I did, I couldn't find any evidence that this was based on an actual myth. Everything that I searched just brought me back to this book. So I'm not sure if this is Sperry retelling a story that he heard on Bora Bora, or if it was him taking kind of all those different things that he experienced and heard and learned and creating his own story from it. This was a really entertaining adventure story. It felt like a precursor to Gary Paulson's stories like The Voyage of the Frog or Hatchet. It's a survival story of a young boy against the elements. I loved his little companion Yuri, and the albatross Kiwi keeps recurring throughout the story. For those of you that refuse to read stories where the dog dies, the dog does not die. Spoiler. I really enjoyed seeing Mafatu's growth over the course of this book, and the way that he came to be more comfortable kind of in his own skin, as well as bringing back honor to his father and to the rest of his people. While the island Mafatu lands on is the place of worship for this cannibalistic tribe, they are not really depicted overly much. It's more this kind of overhanging threat to give him a deadline to need to build a boat and get off the island. There is a rather intense chase scene, but nothing gets too serious or too scary, I thought. Obviously, they did not have a good understanding of trauma response and PTSD, and reading it now, just seeing his reactions and the way he's clearly very traumatized by this early life experience, it just reads very differently now and made me feel for him in a different way than perhaps the people at the time would have felt. He kind of almost does this exposure therapy on himself of, I'm just gonna face the sea, I'm gonna set out on a boat on my own and keep going until I can prove myself to myself and to my father. And it was really interesting watching the way that he works through the fear and the way that some of the different circumstances help him to do that. I also thought it was interesting that though he's kind of sidelined, he isn't ostracized or banished. He chooses to leave on his own, not because his father banishes him or because he is overly bullied. Just thought it was interesting that he was allowed to maintain a place in his culture, in his people, even with this fear of the water. Overall, I enjoyed this. It was It was a breath of fresh air after the last book. It was an adventure story that I could see sharing with my nephews and that I might revisit myself in the future. Next up, we have The Matchlock Gun by Walter D. Edmonds. Thanks and happy reading!